Well, I'm very excited to bring him in. Let's do it now. Jay Triano, assistant coach of the Charlotte Hornets, former coach of the Raptors, interim coach of the Suns, a Canadian basketball legend, joins us on video today. Jay, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, very well.
That's good. So the guys were telling me that you are in Charlotte, and talking with my football friends on the weekend, it was not the best of weeks. You've had better weekends in Charlotte. How are things there on this Monday morning, afternoon for you?
Well, I appreciate you letting me know that it's Monday, because it seems like every day has been exactly the same around here. Ever since the NBA season was put on hold, we've been here and waiting for something to happen, and I think it's going to happen probably this week. We'll find out what's going to happen, whether we're involved or whether we're not going to be involved. But it looks like the NBA is starting to move forward with resuming the play of games. It rained this past week, but other than that, Charlotte's not a bad place to be. The weather's been pretty good, and been just kind of sitting back, staying safe, and seeing what's next for us in the sports world.
Oh, good to hear. Well, I had this, I mentioned earlier, as 81 or day 82 since the NBA players were yanked off the floor in Oklahoma City. How have you kept them busy? How have you kept in contact with them? What's that been like for you in your role?
It's been interesting. We've started off pretty quick because we didn't know how long it was going to last. So we were doing Zoom calls with guys. We were making sure, that we stayed in touch. We were showing videotape of games, but you can only do that for so long. And then we started getting together more just as coaches, and we would have Zoom calls and talk technique. We've probably looked at the draft a little bit more than most assistant coaches would. We've taken a look at free agency. We've done an evaluation of our players and some of the things that we did this past year. So it's been tough. I've joined a couple chat groups on Zoom with other coaches from other professions, Australian football, European rugby and stuff like that, and just talking and trying to stay sharp and learn more. And just like we ask players, you can't sit at home and do nothing. Work on ball handling, work on shooting on your own. It's the same thing as coaches. Try to get better and see what we can do to improve. Lots of clinics and lots of chats with other coaches.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is it's new for everybody. I've kind of been looking at it as one exceptionally long rain delay or one really long off season. But you guys are in season, and maybe I should ask you about that. How has the season gone on the court for the Hornets?
It's been pretty good for us. I mean, I think expectations were pretty low. I mean, with losing Kemba Walker and having a lot of money to spend and looking towards free agency, we're in a pretty good spot because our young players developed real well. Devontae Graham had a big season so far, and I hope that's not the end of it. But our young players have been very good. We've got a lot of salary cap tied up into guys that we got rid of at the deadline in Marvin Williams and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and we've got more in Bismack Biyombo and Nick Batum. And for the most part, Biz is the only guy of those four that was in rotation for us. So we're in a couple of years we're going to have a ton of money to spend, and we're going to be able to hopefully bank on the development that we've had with the young players. So that's probably the reason I'd like to keep playing. Is I just don't think we can take 9 months off, because I don't see the NBA season starting till next December, and to stop in March, that's a long time for these guys not to play games.
Is it ever? And by the way, here's my favorite part of our interviews. The viewers get to chime in, Jay, as we're on Facebook Live. So Alan Lee, who is our intern, by the way, Alan the intern, the Asian sensation, writes in and says, Mr. Triano, of the Hornets right now, who is the most underrated on your team?
I think there's two guys. I think the twins, Cody and Caleb Martin. They're 4-year players out of Fresno. And they just play the right way. They're playing the new NBA style. They're both 6'7", and I think Cody was with us all year, but Caleb was in the G League, and I think it just gives props to the G League because he got to play a lot. So when we pulled him up after the trade deadline, and I thought those two guys really helped with what we're trying to do with length, being 6'7", and athleticism, running the floor and defending. So I think those guys are probably underrated. They were a second-round pick and not drafted. So we're pretty excited about the future with those two.
Jay, I just want to dig into your background for a second. As I mentioned earlier, Canadian, Tillsonburg, Ontario. What's the population in Tillsonburg, by the way? I can't say I've ever heard of it. What can you tell me about Tillsonburg, Ontario?
Tillsonburg, Ontario is it's interesting. I was born there because my dad went there to play basketball. There was a man named Jerry Livingston who funded a senior men's team, and that senior men's team actually won the Canadian championships and went to the Pan American Games. So all these great basketball players moved to Tillsonburg, Ontario. It's a small tobacco town just outside of Waterloo area, and a lot of people. David Coulthard, a great Canadian player, was from there, but it was a real big basketball area. So I was born there, and then my dad got a teaching job in Niagara Falls, so I moved out of there. But interesting place for sure.
Yeah, sounds like it. Well, that's why I wanted to just point out to our viewers again that Jay's a Canadian. So Nathan from North Battleford writes in, says, question for Jay. You've had the opportunity to play for and work with some great coaches. With coaching being such a learning journey, what is the most important thing you've learned along the way, and who did you learn it from?
I think the biggest thing for me has been a relationship with players and how to connect with a player to help them become better at their craft. And whether that's motivation, whether that's support, I think it's the biggest thing. I worked with Coach Mike Krzyzewski in 2010 as an assistant on the U.S. team that went to the World Championships and won a gold medal. And I was there getting ready to write notes with everything that he said as far as his offensive and defensive schemes. And I got to say, that part of it was not as exciting for me because it was stuff that I had already seen. I already knew it. He didn't really teach me something new technically or tactically. But the way that he could get the group together, motivate, and have them all on the same page, and he was one of the best, if not the best at that. He was a great motivator, and that's the one thing. You know, you say it all the time. It's not about the X's and O's. It's about the guys that play the game and how you can relate to them. And I think that Coach K was probably the guy that helped me the most understand that.
Oh, no kid. I learned it too when I got into coaching. You're really only as good as your players. They can make you look real good or real bad. So you better connect with them, like you say. Now, Jay, with you being a Canadian, and the question had come in from North Battleford, and we're a Western Canadian-based show. Have you spent much time out here with the national team, or camps, or clinics, or that kind of thing?
Not really. I've been there to speak at the Great High School Tournament banquet. And
LIT, right? You were here. Right, that's right.
LIT, man. Yes, what a great event that was. I'm there for that. But I've spent most of my time either at Simon Fraser, and to be honest, I haven't been back to Canada too much since I've been working in the NBA the last 7 years in Portland, and then Phoenix and Charlotte. And it's one thing about the NBA; it's become a very full-time thing, and we don't really get across the country. But I'm super excited. I was back home visiting family last summer, and I went to one of the CEBL games, and I was so excited to see that, and the fact that we have professional basketball. All the years that I played on the national team, we kept saying we got to have professional basketball in our country, because all of us were trying to find jobs overseas and then seeing if we could come back and represent Canada. And I just think that we've got it in our backyard now. We got to make this thing work. And congratulations to the Rattlers, who were the champions this past year.
Well, no kidding. You know what? I was going to ask you about the CEBL at the end, but I'll ask you about it now. My wife and 2 daughters played basketball. I didn't. So we went to the Rattlers games, and I said to them, "What do you think of the basketball?" And they gave it's great. It was thumbs up from them, Jay. And so obviously you're pretty closely connected to it. You'd have a lot of friends in the league. What are your thoughts on it? Because they say they're going to play this year, even if it is only a year-end tournament.
Yeah, I think it's sorely needed in our country. I think when you look at the population and what we've done. I mean, we have a CFL, which has been a mainstay in Canada forever. I think we have more people playing basketball than we do football. So let's give them an avenue. Let's give fans an opportunity to see our Canadian kids not just end at the age of 22 or 23 when they graduate from university. Let's give them an avenue to showcase what they can do beyond that. And I just think that this next year, despite what we're going through right now, is going to be even better than it was a year ago. I think more Canadians are getting excited about it. More people will know about it. And Mike Morreale has done a great job, and Lee's done a great job with your franchise. And I'm excited for it.
By the way, the Rattlers are all watching, and Raul Garcia from the front office writes in. He says, we got to get Jay out courtside to a Rattlers game. It's a wonderful experience. It works perfect for you, Summer League. So we got to get on that. Yeah, producer Clark, by the way, mentions your stint with the Raptors. When you were watching the run last year, Jay, what did you think? You must have felt some part of that, I would hope. And what did you think of the way the whole nation came alive with that run?
Oh, it was great. I mean, it's what we had all dreamed about when I was there with young players like a young DeMar DeRozan and Amir Johnson and Jose Calderon. You know, our dream was to have what happened last year, you know, to fight and compete and win an NBA championship. So it was exciting to watch, and it was great for basketball in our country to have so many Canadians to get excited about the sport. And I think it was just a great thing for Canada. And I think the Raptors surprised a lot of people by how they played, and surprised the NBA. And for the first time ever, the trophy went outside of the United States.
Alan, the intern, I'm going to give you one more, Alan, just because you're so excited here with Mr. Triano on the air. He says, who are your top 5 Canadian players of all time?
Well, the guys that I coached the most are probably, the guys that I put at the top of the list. Obviously, in the 2000 Olympics, Steve Nash was just such a great role model, leader, and player, and it carried us to a 5-2 record at the 2000 Olympics. But beyond that, getting to know guys like Corey Joseph and Tristan Thompson and Kelly Olynyk and Dwight Powell and now Jamal Murray, all these guys. I mean, we just got such a great group of Canadians. And the thing that I like the best is that they're all great people as well as great basketball players and represent us so well in the NBA. And I'm fortunate in Charlotte, when teams come through here, I get to connect with them either the night before or at the game. And it's a great Canadian fraternity of basketball, and it keeps getting bigger. And it's kudos to all the young coaches that keep helping our young players, and our young players keep getting better. And Canada is exploding right now. We have the second most players in the NBA outside of the United States. So it's something that's going to keep growing.
Wow, that's amazing. And I should say this. Last week, it warmed my heart to hear that Joel Anthony has joined the front office of the Hamilton Honey Badgers of the CEBL. And I got to say this, Jay, how has this guy not got the Order of Canada and Canadian Sports Hall of Fame as a 2-time NBA champion? He never gets mentioned along with Steve Nash. This guy's an absolute treasure.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing about the CEBL. We've got, we got guys that Jermaine Anderson is with Hamilton now, and he played for a long time. Dave Smart is working with the Ottawa team. So our best, and you mentioned Joel, our best are in the game and continuing to be in the game. Greg did such a great job last year, and he's been a great ambassador for basketball everywhere across Canada. And Chad taking over is going to be great in Saskatchewan. So I'm so excited because our best ambassadors of the sport are involved in this league, and this league is going to help create great basketball players in the future, and it's going to be a great league. And I just keep pushing all support towards that league because I've been fortunate to be in the NBA, but our country can support. If we can support football, we can certainly support basketball.
No doubt, and to have those NBA guys giving back. That was Joel's comment. He wanted to give back to the game in Canadian basketball, and just having him in the league, what a major shot in the arm, boost of credibility. And they did have a tremendous year one. Jay, I appreciate the time. We'll let you go, but please don't be a stranger. Big fans here, been watching you a long time, and good luck getting back on the hardwood.
I appreciate that, guys. Thanks very much, and I'm a game to come on anytime you want.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Jay Triano with the Charlotte Hornets joining us from his home in Charlotte today.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.